He stood there in his worn Police Academy sweater and faded jeans, examining the glossy black BMW M5 with admiration in his eyes. The showroom of Elite Automotive sparkled under carefully positioned lights, a temple to luxury and status that made his modest clothing feel suddenly inadequate. Jack Reynolds ran his hand along the sleek hood, imagining for a moment what it would be like to own such a masterpiece of engineering. "Can I help you?" The voice was cold, professional, with an undercurrent of disdain that was impossible to miss. Jack turned to find a tall man in an impeccably tailored suit approaching, lips curved in what could technically be called a smile but never reached his eyes. The name tag read Victor Harmon, Sales Director. "Just looking for now," Jack replied pleasantly. "Beautiful machine." Victor's gaze swept over Jack's clothing, lingering on the scuffed boots and the Police Academy logo. His smile tightened. "Indeed, the M5 competition starts at $112,000. Perhaps I could direct you to something more suitable for your budget." The condescension hung in the air between them. Behind Victor, two other salespeople exchanged knowing glances. "Actually," Jack said, standing straighter, "I'm interested in this one. I'd like to test drive it if possible." Victor's laugh was short, dismissive. "Sir, we typically require pre-qualification for our test drives. These are high-performance vehicles that demand experienced handling. I spent 5 years as a pursuit driver with the Metro Police," Jack said evenly. "I think I can handle it." Victor's expression hardened. "Nevertheless, we have protocols. Perhaps you'd like to fill out a credit application first, just to ensure we're not wasting each other's time. Before we continue, if you enjoy stories about unexpected twists of fate and sweet justice, make sure to click that subscribe button. This is the best way for you to support our work. Thank you very much, and let's continue." The Elite Automotive dealership in downtown San Francisco was a monument to wealth and exclusivity. Floor-to-ceiling windows allowed natural light to cascade over millions of dollars worth of luxury vehicles. The air was perfumed with leather and success, the floors so polished you could see your reflection. It was a place designed to make the wealthy feel at home and everyone else feel unwelcome. Jack Reynolds had entered with purpose that morning, and 34, the former police officer carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to commanding respect. His dark hair was cut short, his blue eyes sharp and observant, habits from his law enforcement days that hadn't faded in the 2 years since he'd left the force after an injury. The scar that ran along his left forearm was usually hidden by his sleeve, but it served as a constant reminder of the night that had ended his career. What Victor Harmon couldn't know was that Jack had come to Elite Automotive with every intention of making a purchase. After years of saving and a recent inheritance from his grandfather, he finally had the means to buy his dream car. The BMW M5 had been on his wall as a teenager and in his mind ever since. "I don't think a credit application will be necessary," Jack said calmly. "I'm prepared to make a cash purchase today." Victor's eyebrows raised slightly, but the skepticism remained firmly etched on his face. "Yes? For a $112,000 vehicle." "That's right." Victor's smile returned, more condescending than before. "Sir." "I'm sorry, what was your name again?" "Jack. Jack Reynolds." "Mr. Reynolds," Victor continued, "perhaps there's been a misunderstanding. When we say cash, we don't mean actual currency. We're talking about a bank transfer or certified funds. This isn't a used car lot where you can walk in with a wad of bills." By now, several customers were watching the exchange. Jack felt heat rising in his neck but kept his expression neutral, another skill from his police days. "I understand exactly what cash means in this context, Mr. Harmon," he replied, "and I'm prepared to proceed with the purchase today if we can move forward with a test drive." Victor glanced at his watch, making a show of his impatience. "Unfortunately, all our test vehicles are booked for the day. Perhaps you could come back another time? Was appropriate documentation." The message was clear. Victor had decided Jack didn't belong in Elite Automotive, and no protest would change his mind. A younger salesman approached, hesitating slightly. "Victor, the 11 o'clock test drive canceled. We actually have an opening if Mr. Reynolds wants to." "That won't be necessary, Andrew," Victor cut him off sharply. I've already explained our policy. He turned back to Jack. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have customers waiting. Jack stood motionless for a moment, weighing his options. He could escalate the situation, demand to speak to a manager, make a scene. But that wasn't his style. With a slight nod, he turned toward the exit. For what it's worth, he said over his shoulder. Your loss. Victor's laugh followed him to the door. I'm sure we'll manage somehow. As Jack pushed through the glass doors, a gleaming white Porsche Taycan pulled into the parking lot. Jack recognized the driver immediately. Charlotte Chen, technology entrepreneur and founder of SecureLink, the cybersecurity company that had revolutionized consumer data protection. She was also the woman he was going to marry in 3 months. Their worlds had collided 2 years ago when Jack, still on the force, had been assigned to investigate a cyber attack on her company. What began as a professional relationship had evolved into something neither of them had expected. Charlotte, with her brilliant mind and quiet determination, had seen past the uniform to the man beneath, and Jack had found in her someone who valued integrity over image, substance over status. Charlotte stepped out of the Porsche, her slim figure elegant in a simple black pantsuit. At 36, she carried success lightly, preferring to let her accomplishments speak for themselves. Her family had emigrated from Taiwan when she was a child, and she'd built her company from nothing but intelligence and relentless work. Jack? She called, surprised to see him leaving. I thought you were test driving the BMW? I came to meet you after my meeting wrapped up early. Jack shook his head, his voice low. Not today, apparently. The sales director decided I'm not their target demographic. Charlotte's expression shifted, a flash of anger crossing her features before she composed herself. Did you tell them? No, Jack interrupted gently. And it doesn't matter. If that's how they conduct business, I don't want to give them mine. We'll find another dealership. Charlotte looked past him to the gleaming showroom, then back to Jack's face. Something hardened in her eyes, a look he recognized from negotiations and board meetings. She reached for his hand. Let's go home, she said. I have some calls to make. The penthouse apartment overlooking the bay was Charlotte's domain, a place where modern elegance met warmth. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Golden Gate Bridge in the distance, but the breathtaking view wasn't what made it home. It was the mismatched bookshelf filled with Jack's crime novels alongside Charlotte's technical manuals, the worn leather couch where they spent Sunday mornings reading, the photos of their blended family scattered throughout. Jack watched as Charlotte paced the living room, phone to her ear, speaking in the measured tones she reserved for business matters. After 15 minutes, she ended the call and turned to him with a smile that reminded him why powerful executives feared her in boardrooms. Tomorrow morning, she said simply. 10 Uhr morgens. What's happening tomorrow morning? Jack asked, though something in her expression told him he already knew. We're going car shopping, Charlotte replied, settling beside him on the couch. And this time, I think the experience will be quite different. Jack shook his head. Charlotte, you don't need to do this. It was just one arrogant salesman. It's not about the salesman, Jack, she replied, her voice soft but firm. It's about respect. And sometimes, people need a lesson in making assumptions. She reached for his hand, fingers intertwining with his. Besides, I've been thinking we need a new addition to the garage anyway. That night, as moonlight filtered through the bedroom windows, Jack found himself unable to sleep. He watched Charlotte's peaceful form beside him and reflected on the journey that had brought them together. 2 years ago, he'd been a dedicated officer with aspirations of making detective. The armed robbery that had left him with a damaged shoulder and the permanent scar on his arm had changed everything. During his recovery, he'd realized he wanted something different from life. He'd gone back to school, finished his degree in criminal justice, and started consulting on security for private firms. He'd met Charlotte again by chance at a cybersecurity conference where he was speaking about physical security vulnerabilities. She'd approached him afterward, remembered him from the investigation, and invited him for coffee. One coffee had turned into dinner into weekend plans, and before long, they'd recognized what they'd found in each other. Jack had proposed 6 months ago, not with an extravagant gesture but during a quiet moment on the same hiking trail where they'd had their third date. Charlotte had said yes before he could even finish asking. What touched him most was how she'd never once made him feel less than her equal. Despite the vast difference in their financial situations, she understood something fundamental about him, that his pride came not from what he owned but from who he was and the integrity with which he lived his life. Tomorrow's plan, whatever it was, clearly meant something to Charlotte beyond mere revenge. She wasn't petty or vindictive by nature. This was about principle, about standing beside the man she loved. Jack finally drifted to sleep thinking not about cars or condescending salesmen, but about how fortunate he was to have found someone who fought her battles and his with equal conviction. Morning arrived with San Francisco's characteristic fog rolling over the bay. Jack dressed carefully in the same clothes he'd worn the day before, a deliberate choice. Charlotte, however, opted for a change, selecting a tailored navy suit that she typically reserved for major investor meetings. As they prepared to leave, the doorman called up to inform them that the car had arrived. In the private parking area below, a vehicle waited that made even the seasoned doorman stand a little straighter. The Rolls-Royce Phantom was a masterpiece in gleaming midnight blue, its very presence suggesting power and exclusivity. Beside it stood Hamilton, Charlotte's driver for important occasions, impeccable in his uniform. "Good morning, Miss Chan, Mr. Reynolds." Hamilton greeted them with a slight bow. "The Phantom is ready at your disposal." Jack looked at Charlotte with raised eyebrows. "The Rolls? Really?" Her smile was innocent but her eyes danced with mischief. "I thought the occasion called for something special." The interior of the Phantom was a cocoon of luxury. Hand-stitched leather and carefully crafted, wood paneling creating an atmosphere of refined opulence. As they settled into the rear seats, Jack couldn't help but laugh. "You know, this is exactly the kind of overcompensation I tried to avoid yesterday." Charlotte's expression grew more serious. "This isn't about showing off wealth, Jack. It's about making a point. People like Victor Harmon understand one language fluently: power. Sometimes you need to speak that language to be heard." As Hamilton navigated through the morning traffic, Jack noticed the small leather portfolio Charlotte carried. "What's in there?" "Just some paperwork," she replied cryptically. "Background information." The Rolls-Royce Phantom commanded attention wherever it went, and its arrival at Elite Automotive was no exception. The sleek vehicle glided to a stop directly in front of the main entrance, its distinctive grille and Spirit of Ecstasy hood ornament announcing its occupant's status before they even emerged. Inside the showroom, activity seemed to freeze. Victor Harmon, midway through a conversation with a couple interested in a Mercedes, faltered at the sight of the Rolls-Royce. Hamilton stepped out first, walking around to open the passenger doors with practiced precision. Charlotte emerged with the grace of someone accustomed to making entrances. Jack followed, fighting a smile at the expressions visible through the glass facade. "Ready?" Charlotte asked quietly. Jack nodded. "After you." The temperature in Elite Automotive seemed to drop several degrees as they entered. Victor Harmon's eyes widened slightly as he recognized Jack, but his professional mask quickly returned as he assessed Charlotte. The designer suit, the confident stride, the subtle but exquisite jewelry, all signaled a client worth his attention. "Good morning," Victor said, approaching with his most winning smile. "Welcome to Elite Automotive. I'm Victor Harmon, Sales Director. How may I assist you today?" Charlotte didn't offer her hand. "Ms. Chun," she said simply, "and I believe you've already met my fiancé, Jack Reynolds." Victor's smile faltered momentarily as he looked between them. "Mr. Reynolds, yes, of course. Lovely to see you again. I trust you've returned with the documentation we discussed." Charlotte's laugh was light but carried an edge. "Documentation won't be necessary today, Mr. Harmon. We're not here for the BMW." Confusion crossed Victor's features. "I see. Perhaps you'd be interested in our Porsche collection? Or the new Bentley that just arrived?" "Actually," Charlotte said, "we're here to discuss something more significant." She opened her leather portfolio and removed a business card, offering it to Victor. "Perhaps we could speak in your office?" Victor examined the card, and Jack watched as recognition dawned on his face. Charlotte Chen, CEO and founder of SecureLink, one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country, a Forbes cover subject just last month. Miss Chan, of course, Victor stammered, his demeanor transforming instantly. It would be my pleasure. Right this way, please. Andrew, the young salesman who had tried to help Jack the previous day, caught his eye as they passed. Jack gave him a slight nod of acknowledgement. Victor's office was designed to impress, with awards and photos of him alongside luxury vehicles and the occasional celebrity. He ushered them to plush chairs across from his desk, offering refreshments which both declined. Now then, Victor said, settling into his chair with renewed confidence. How can Elite Automotive be of service today? We have several vehicles that would complement the magnificent Phantom IC you arrived in. Charlotte placed her portfolio on the desk and folded her hands atop it. Mr. Harmon, I'll be direct. Yesterday you humiliated my fiancé based solely on his appearance. You made assumptions about his character and financial status that led you to treat him with contempt. Victor's smile froze. There must be some misunderstanding. We offer all our customers the highest level of trees. Charlotte interrupted smoothly. Let's not waste time with denials. There were multiple witnesses, including your colleague Andrew. Victor's gaze flicked to Jack, then back to Charlotte. Miss Chun, if there was any perception of discourtesy, I sincerely apologize. Sometimes our protocols for high-value vehicles can seem stringent, but I assure you they're designed to protect both the customer and our inventory. Interesting, Charlotte replied, because after leaving here yesterday, we visited Continental Motors across town. Jack test drove the same model BMW without any protocols beyond a copy of his driver's license. The difference in treatment was illuminating. Victor shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Again, if there was any misunderstanding, there was no misunderstanding. Jack spoke for the first time. You made a judgment based on my clothes and my background. You decided I didn't deserve the same respect you'd give to someone who looked the part. Victor's professional veneer began to crack. Mr. Reynolds, in this business we have to make quick assessments. You came in wearing clothes. Jack finished for him. I came in wearing clothes, Mr. Harmon, not a financial statement. Charlotte opened her portfolio again and removed a small stack of papers. Let me tell you why we're really here. Elite Automotive leases this property from Horizon Commercial Properties. My investment group acquired Horizon last year. The color drained from Victor's face. Additionally, Charlotte continued, the financing arm of your dealership has a strategic partnership with First Pacific Bank, where I sit on the board of directors. Victor's mouth opened and closed without sound. I'm not here to threaten your business, Mr. Harmon, Charlotte said quietly. That would be petty and counterproductive. I'm here because I believe in teaching moments. She slid the papers across the desk. This is a proposal. Elite Automotive will institute a comprehensive training program addressing unconscious bias and customer service equality. You will establish clear, written criteria for test drives and financing approvals that are applied consistently regardless of appearance or background. And you'll implement a mystery shopper program to ensure compliance. Victor stared at the papers. And if we decline? Charlotte's smile was pleasant but firm. Then at our next board meeting, I'll have some interesting recommendations regarding your lease and financing arrangements. Jack watched the internal struggle play out on Victor's face, indignation wrestling with self-preservation. Miss Chun, Victor finally said, his voice strained. This seems rather extreme for what was essentially a misunderstanding about a test drive. It wasn't about the test drive, Jack interjected. It was about basic human dignity. And it happens every day to people who don't have the advantage of arriving the next morning in a Rolls-Royce. Victor looked between them, recognition dawning that this wasn't a battle he could win. With a resigned sigh, he reached for a pen. I'll need to discuss this with the owner. But I understand your position. Excellent, Charlotte replied. Oh, and one more thing. Andrew, the young man who tried to help Jack yesterday. He demonstrated exactly the kind of customer service your dealership should aspire to. I'd recommend keeping an eye on him. People who treat others with respect regardless of appearance tend to go far in life. As they left Victor's office, Jack spotted Andrew across the showroom. He gestured for the young salesman to join them. "Andrew," Jack said, extending his hand, "I wanted to thank you for yesterday. It meant more than you know." The young man shook his hand firmly. "Just doing my job, sir. Or trying to, anyway." "Well, it made a difference," Charlotte added. "In fact, we'd like to see that BMW again. I think Jack still deserves his test drive." Andrew's smile was genuine. "It would be my pleasure. I can have it brought around immediately." As Andrew hurried away, Jack turned to Charlotte. Was all of that necessary? The roles, the business connections? Charlotte considered the question seriously. Maybe not. But sometimes people need to understand that the person they dismiss today might be connected to the person they want to impress tomorrow. It's a small world, and kindness is always the safest bet. Jack smiled, the warmth reaching his eyes. "Have I told you lately that you're remarkable?" "Not since breakfast," she replied with a laugh. The BMW M5 was everything Jack had dreamed it would be: responsive, hammerfing, a perfect fusion of luxury and performance. With Andrew's enthusiastic guidance, the test drive was comprehensive and professional. When they returned to the dealership, the paperwork was handled with efficiency and respect. As they prepared to leave Jack in his new BMW, Charlotte returning to the Rolls-Royce, Victor Harmon approached once more, his demeanor dramatically transformed. "Mr. Reynolds, Ms. Chun," he began, his voice carefully modulated. "I wanted to personally thank you for your business today, and to assure you that I've taken our conversation to heart." Jack studied the man's face, looking for insincerity but finding instead what appeared to be genuine remorse. "It's not about the sale, Mr. Harmon," Jack said quietly. "It's about seeing people. Really seeing them, regardless of what they're wearing or where they come from." Victor nodded slowly. "A lesson I won't forget. I've already spoken with our owner about implementing the training program Ms. Chun suggested." "I'm glad to hear it," Charlotte replied. "Change starts with awareness." 3 months later, Jack and Charlotte stood together on a beach in Maui, exchanging vows as the sun set over the Pacific. Their ceremony was intimate, just 30 guests including family and close friends. Charlotte wore a simple white dress that caught the breeze, Jack a light linen suit without a tie. Andrew had received an invitation after forming an unexpected friendship with the couple, his genuine nature and work ethic having impressed them both. In the months since their confrontation at Elite Automotive, he had been promoted to assistant sales manager after Victor Harmon recommended him for the position. As for Victor himself, the training program had proven transformative not just for the dealership but for him personally. Sales had increased by 20% as word spread about Elite Automotive's refreshingly egalitarian approach to customer service. He sent a handwritten note of congratulations along with a donation to the scholarship fund Charlotte and Jack had established in lieu of wedding gifts, a program designed to help former police officers pursue higher education. At the reception, under swaying palm trees decorated with twinkling lights, Jack pulled Charlotte close as they swayed to their first dance. "Happy?" he asked softly. Charlotte's answer was a radiant smile. "Completely, though I'm still not sure about letting you drive us to the airport in that BMW. The Rolls would be more comfortable." Jack left. "The BMW stays. It's a reminder." "Of what?" He looked into her eyes, finding there the same quiet strength and compassion that had captured his heart 2 years ago. That sometimes the most valuable things in life have nothing to do with price tags. They're about principle, integrity, and finding someone who sees you for exactly who you are. Warren Police Academy sweater and all. Charlotte leaned her head against his shoulder. "I wouldn't have you any other way." As the stars appeared above them and their loved ones looked on, Jack Reynolds and Charlotte Chun continued their dance. Two people from different worlds who had found in each other something money couldn't buy and appearances couldn't disguise. Recognition of the true worth that lies beneath the surface, waiting for someone who cares enough to look.